Welcome back. Markets are racing away. It's up and away. 22,100. We're setting our sights on that. It's a solid 400-point rally. The Nifty Mid-Cap Index is at an all-time high, but it's purely a large-cap driven rally. Look at the way the markets have gained momentum in the last 1 hour, and individual movers are now the banking names. Banks are moving up. Kotak Mahindra Bank, Axis Bank. These are the stocks where you are seeing a big surge in the last 10 minutes. State Bank of India. We spoke about Reliance Industries, but IT too is contributing on the way up. Pull up a Wipro and you would see the buying has emerged. In fact, 22,100 also conquered. I think in this show, Surabhi, 15 minutes back, we said 22,000 was conquered. And now 15 minutes later, we're saying 22,100 is gone. And now it's, 20 points away from our all-time high level. So that countdown is also going to be beginning very soon. But in the meanwhile, let's get in a quick conversation with Mphasis. Mphasis reported a top-line miss. The company reported a 1% revenue growth, but this was lower than what the street was anticipating. We have Nitin Rakesh, the Managing Director and CEO of the company now. Nitin, first tell us about this top line. While your revenue growth was 1% on a quarter-on-quarter basis, there was also the benefit of that Silver Line acquisition, which means if you strip that out, the performance on the top line would have been weaker. So what was the organic growth in terms of revenues in Q3?
I think we announced the acquisition of Silver Line in October, so accounting for that full quarter, about 15 million or so. So I think the organic revenue growth was about -2%, driven primarily by the weakness coming out of the seasonality, furlough included. So if I exclude the seasonality impact, I think we've seen pretty stable revenue on a sequential basis, on an organic basis as well. And as we get into into the Q4 discussion, I'll talk a little bit more about the outlook going forward.
Okay, Nitin, just want to talk to you also about how your organic growth is shaping up and what are the expectations there?
The short answer is yes. I think we called out the fact that we have started to see signs of bottoming in many of our segments, I think mortgage included. That theme continued to play out through Q3. And as I mentioned, if I exclude the impact of seasonality factors, especially furlough, I think we actually saw a pretty steady stability in the top line. So as we get into Q4, we do expect growth to come back on an organic basis as well as obviously on a reported basis.
Okay, so just to get that right, in terms of...
Okay, I'll just pause you, Reema, over there, because what you were saying has actually happened. Nitin, just hang on there. We do have fresh all-time highs on the market. So we're back to the markets. Just hold on to the Mphasis commentary in just a bit. What a stupendous follow-through rally we've had today. And the market has conquered that level of 22,124. In fact, the day's high is 22,125 and then some change. Phenomenal move coming in from the big boys, from the large caps. Mid-cap index is up 1%, but the way the large caps have surged ahead, that is something that you need to take note on. If we just pull up the Nifty contribution plate, I mean, you will find so many different legs to it. The PSU rally is really well and truly, underway. In fact, if you remember the comments that came in from the finance minister and the panel of secretaries, including the divestment secretary yesterday, when the question was put up as to what is the thought process on PSUs and why is there no, big thrust on divestment, the answer was that, well, we're creating more and more value and then we will sell as and when it is strategic, as and when it's required. So perhaps, some of that commentary and just the overall fiscal discipline that the government is promising, that is now, finally percolated down. The reaction is coming in. Yesterday, Reema, it was the bond market. Yeah. The benchmark yield had moved up, had fallen 10 basis points and prices were rallying all through. So it seems the equity market has had a late reaction, but it's finally managed to sort of parse over what we've heard yesterday. Also, we were listening to the commentary from Neelkant Mishra in the morning, and I thought his point was very, very interesting. So when you say that CapEx is not as much as last year, right? Last year, capital expenditure grew by over 30%. This year, it's only 11%. The point that he made was that this is a very conscious decision that seems to be coming in from the government, which is confident that it has done its part, and now the animal spirits of the private sector, that will really start coming through. So I guess some of that is just really encouraging the market, and what we have is, TCS, Reliance, all the PSU stocks up there, and of course some of the big banks as well are participating in
And
a nice
even
party.
as one of our guests said, right, like this time we haven't seen those typical welfare schemes that you have in a pre-election budget.
Yeah.
The
No
typical
populism.
so-called, populism,
Yeah.
which also goes to show that perhaps the government is so confident about, getting that term for the third time around that they don't have to resort. They can actually use their money to continue to spend on infrastructure and capex. And I think that's also something that the street has liked because it does help with the entire fiscal responsibility and consolidation. The Nifty, after hitting all-time high levels, has retreated by a couple of points, so now trading just shy of the 22,100 mark. But this has been a momentous, fabulous post-election rally that we have on our hands right now. 400 points on the Nifty, the Sensex up close to about 300 points. Just quickly getting back to our conversation with Nitin Rakesh on Mphasis. Nitin, let's talk about the margins. Margins this time were impacted due to the acquisition. So if you strip that out, what's the outlook on margins going ahead?
I think there's a nuance to that. So if you think about the impact of 110 basis points, on a reported basis, the margin is 14.9 at an EBIT level. That same margin normalized for the one-time impact and, of course, the acquisition amortization would have been 16%, which in a furlough-driven, seasonally difficult quarter meant that we expanded the EBIT line by about 50 basis points, mostly through operational levers and, of course, initiatives that we had planned to take, given the outlook on the seasonality front was pretty well known. I think we expect to stay in a normalized band of 1525 to 1625, and definitely we've guided for a northward bias in the EBIT line over the last 2 or 3 quarters as well. So pleased that despite a difficult seasonal quarter, we were able to expand the operating margin profile, and we do believe that we can keep it in that range that we've talked about while focusing on revenue growth as we get into Q4 and of course FY25.
Okay, just talking about the verticals this time and the performance, communication has taken a big hit. TMT revenues are down 9% quarter on quarter. Ex of the seasonality, what led to the decline?
Yeah, I think it was primarily driven by certain client deliverables, but mostly I would say seasonality. As we look forward to Q4, growth will be driven by BFS and TMT. So I think you called it already. There is, based on the pipeline and TCV conversion activity, we do expect BFS and TMT to lead the growth in Q4.
Okay, Nitin, short conversation today, but we've got a market to look at. But that's the management of Mphasis saying that Q4 will see organic revenue growth. They're also saying BFSI and the telecom vertical, that's TMT, will lead growth and margins will remain in their band of 15.25 to 16.25%. with an upward bias. The stock in an up market is down about 1.2% on the back of that top line miss. But can't take your eyes away from the screen. But now it's just, dithering around levels of 22,100. So that